there's a lot to get through. So, this... I decided, because I never want to work out exactly what my core demographic is, though I have generally found that very few of them were ever chosen first for games. And, which is the way I like it. Isn't it great when your school life was shit and everything improves, and we look at those who are captain of the first 50... Anyway, let's not gloat. And, but I thought... I've got into Doctor Who, like the newer stuff, because my son's into Doctor Who, and once you've got an alibi, you can enjoy it. And I love that song. I hope you're not ready. It's called The Long Song. I think it's from nearly the end of the Series 7. And I've reached that point of middle age when any chorus, I just go, well, that's me going now. It's a chorus. It's like a whole choir singing. I'm very sad. And... This is, I should say, right, so I am going to try and get to the point today at some point, and I'm going to try and get to some kind of actual end, as it is meant to be the end of my solo touring for some time. I should probably get some kind of, should be a magnificent denouement, because it's been building up for 25 years. And I don't want it to be like the last series of Lost, and I had this thing where when I was doing a benefit here 2 weeks ago, and I was with Stuart Lee, and Stuart, he said this to me more than once. He goes, why don't you, why don't you, talk about fewer things, right? But more precisely, And I said, well, I'm not as confident as you, Stuart. I said, I talk really quickly about a lot of things because I just think that, therefore, probabilistically, some of the sentences, by chance, will be jokes. That's just kind of the way it works. I said, whereas you come up with 3 sentences, and they're really good sentences, and then you repeat them for 90 minutes. And Brian Logan from The Guardian's very keen. That's art. And he went, oh, yeah. So anyway, this is... in fact, on the art thing, I'm going to talk about the brain in a moment, but my favourite art thing I've seen... Because as Grace said, I get really... Well, I've been travelling around a lot, and I've been to loads of galleries in Australia and stuff, and still my favourite thing... In fact, my favourite argument I've had on Twitter, when you you say something and you really didn't mean it. For once, I didn't mean it facetiously. It was a fucking joke. And you put a joke out, and then people decide it's not a joke, and they decide it's very offensive to them. And of all the things that I've kind of, dicked around with, like, when I used to have a go at there's a climate change skeptic, and I mean skeptic if you don't own a dictionary, and called James Delingpole, who I always had to be really careful talking about James Delingpole, because even though recently he was saying how difficult it is now because of legal restrictions for people to say what they want, when I made a joke about him on stage, he then very quickly sent me an email saying that if I said it again, he may well take legal action. So, libertarianism does seem to work one way, and and especially as I did the joke at a gig for libel reform. Anyway, so and then I did a gig in Liverpool, and I mentioned him again, and this time I got a tweet from him going, my ears are burning, I wonder why. And obviously I tweeted back, I imagine it's that bloody global warming. And sometimes I am very facetious, I understand that. That's kind of a genetic nature-nurture, we're not really sure. But anyway, this was one where I was just dicking around. I wanted to go and see a Turner exhibition, but I'd run out of time to go and see the Turner exhibition, so before I left the house, all I tweeted was, I was going to the Turner exhibition, but I've decided to save money, and instead I'm just going to walk down the Thames without my glasses on, right? So... just a throwaway line about the cataracts of J.M.W. Turner, right? I leave the house, I return 7 hours later to find that my timeline is, I suppose in one way, one could say vivacious, but it's with various artists who are furious, going, how dare you? How dare you? You think you're better than Turner? Well, I don't, it was a joke, and it really was a joke. I didn't do it. I'm very short-sighted. If I did, I'd fall into the Thames, I just... I went, yeah, well, why is it that people who are into science hate Turner so much? I didn't even know about that, and nor do any other scientists. And this went on, all these people joining in, how dare you attack the arts? And it really was a joke about Turner, right, and this goes on for a while, and then eventually, because all his followers are joining in, I started retweeting some of his more ridiculous... Till at one point he went, well, thank you very much. You've ruined my timeline. I was having a lovely argument about Constable versus Turner. Now it's all full of your fans, right? I said, well, you were tweeting to all your followers. He went, yes, but it's not fair because I haven't got as many as you. And I said, but that's never how war worked. It's just that... There wasn't a moment where, oh, bloody hell, William, Harold and me weren't expecting you to bring so many over. We've only brought 15, 14, and so... But this is my favourite art thing, right? And a positive thing, I was going around the Tate Britain, and I like Tate Britain a lot. And there's one of my favourite rooms there is a room with a Francis Bacon triptych, which I think it's called. I'm going to get this slightly wrong, but it's three studies for three figures at the base of a crucifixion, right? So it's one of those really, beautifully horrible, grotesque Bacon works where it's kind of eyeless, stretched, deathly skin with gnarled mouths drooling, and which I once saw a tourist standing next to, just going. Which was a lovely mix, right? And so I often go and look at that room if I've not got very much time. I have a quick look at the Turner and then I have a look at the Bacon stuff. And then just so I was about to leave, it was quite early, it was about kind of 10 in the morning, I turned and I noticed something I hadn't seen in the room before. And it was like a kind of cushioned bench, and on it was lying what appeared to be a man holding some books like that with a really big bandage. And I don't know if you've ever had that moment where you've looked at something and you kind of go, I don't know if that's art or a poorly man, right? It works very well on both levels. It's kind of... Because it was a really big bandage. It was like one of those bandages which... It wasn't just stemming the flow. It was a statement about bandage. And... So I looked at him. I was trying not to stare in case it was just a man having a lie down or someone who was ill. So I was kind of looking over like that. And then I noticed that there was breathing going on. I thought, oh, it's some... And then I thought, hang on a minute. I've been to one of those exhibitions where actually the sculptures could breathe as well, so that's still not enough of a clue. And I keep trying to look over and I go, well, it's kind of beautiful, but it's also... might be... I don't know. And I was about to leave, and then the attendant, who must have been away for a week as well, he came in, and it turned out he didn't know either. And he got on his little walkie-talkie and he went, have we got a new exhibit in room 7? Right, I think there's a bloke who's a bit sick then, right? And this guy then opened his eyes. He went, oh, I'm very sorry, I had an operation last week and I just felt a bit faint, but I'm fine now. And he got up and he left. And I just looked and I thought, he's even more art now. I still don't know he's art and poorly human. I love it. Anyway, So that creativity, this is part of what I find very, very exciting, again, about being... I'm going to show you, right? Last year, I had a brain scan for fun, which is the best way to have one, right? And I've had more brain scans since I did some stuff with UCL recently where they gave me... I've now got... And I love... It was like... Basically what happened was I met a man on a train, because that's how my life works. I meet people on trains and they say, oh, do you fancy a brain scan? I have an amazing, kind of Renaissance existence. And I was on a late-night train from Tunbridge Wells to London, and this man called Peter came up to me, and not the greatest opening line. He went, I've heard your radio show. Would you like to have a brain scan? And I thought, like he'd gone, I've heard that. We should check. We really should, So I said, that sounds brilliant. I said, here's my email address. And he went, well, don't you want to check out who I am first? I went, not really. I think life's finite. Whatever happens, it'll be an adventure, right? So he might have not been a scientist. I might have just ended up in his garden, lying in his bin, while he just banged magnets around it, going, oh, yes, this really is an MRI. It really is, yes. Then you can come and live in my love well. So anyway, But anyway, it did turn out he did have access to an MRI. So I'll show you, right? It was so much fun. I really enjoyed having it. I mean, it's worrying as well. It's like when I started showing my brain scan, when I did the Edinburgh Festival last year, because I'd had a brain scan. Once you've had a brain scan, you want to show everyone. But like recently, I was having an argument with some kind of, just dick, and this guy eventually was really kind of like, oh, you don't really understand anything, and actually, and eventually went, do you even have a brain? And I went, I can send you the JPEG. And so I had this. I'll show you. This is the only side tonight. Right? This is my brain. Right. That is a lot of angry veins at the side. I hope you saw those. I use them a lot. By the way, watch out. I've got quite a big occipital lobe. So, it's true. At one point, Anita, who was the woman doing the scan, apparently she went, oh my God, his brain's so big, I'm not sure I can fit it all in. And then blushed. Now, very little about outside me has ever made a woman blush. The fact that my rather big occipital lobe had an effect. Anyway, so it was that is basically, that's my brain. And it was, and yeah, when I first showed it in Edinburgh, the moment I walked back out into the bar, I was just expecting someone to come up to me and go, hello, I'm a neuroscientist, and I think there was something they missed. When does this end? August, that's lucky. So anyway, I was like, But I got excited to see your own brain, to see this thing that puts together your image of the world. This is, and this is I've become increasingly fascinated by all of these. Like, when I looked at my own brain, and I started to think, well, to me, there is also a delightful thing, which is that most of your brain doesn't even know you exist. Most of your brain is getting on with the humdrum banalities of keeping this alive. And then there at the top of the brain, in the frontal lobes, there lies the you-ness of you, the me-ness of me, right? And we think we're in charge. I think I'm very much in charge, probably. And every single day, your brain, at times, it stops you doing things you'll never even know you were going to do, right? Probably today, at some point, your brain would have gone, no, not here, not in this shopping centre. Did he do it? No, he didn't. Should we tell him? Never. Let's move on. Right? That's going on. It's exciting and it's disconcerting. That's where, I think that's sometimes where that idea comes from. You've probably heard it when people go, oh, do you know what? We only use 10% of our brain. Do you know that? We only use 10% of our brain, right? Which is not true. We don't only use 10% of our brain. And that's quite an interesting thing, actually, because one of the things that I love about touring is because there are scientists sometimes in the audience who will then pick me up on various things that I've got wrong on a reasonably daily basis. And I was out in, where was it? I was out in Oslo. And I talked about the fact that idea that we only use 10% of our brain, that's been bandied around a lot, it's a fiction, it's a myth, and no one even really knows where that idea ultimately comes from. And so I talked about that, and then I went to the bar, and this woman came up, she went, oh, hello, I'm a neuroscientist, and I enjoyed the 10% of the brain stuff. She said, but maybe you don't know that there's been some new research, and that's the beautiful thing. During the time of touring, the kind of, reality in some ways changed a little bit. And she said, yeah, the 10% thing. She said, you are predominantly right about that, but it's not entirely right. She said, recently, there's been some research in Helsinki, and I think it's been published in Nature as well. So what they found out is, yes, it is predominantly true that we don't only use 10% of our brain, but what they found out is that people who say, we only use 10% of our brain, do only use 10% of their brain. So it's a little bit of learning there for you, right? So this is when you... And I had like that train journey, that wasn't... I've had 3 really good neuroscience-based train journeys, right? I had one where I was going from Leeds to Manchester quite late at night, and this man called Nick came up to me, and he was very nervous, right? He approached me at Huddersfield, and he was very nervous. I don't know why he approached me at Huddersfield, of course, which often happens on that particular Transpennine route, and... So anyway, so he approached it, and he looked really nervous. I'd never met him before, and he went, hello, oh, you're probably a bit tired, I should probably leave you alone. I said, no, it's fine. He went, are you sure? I went, yeah, no, it's fine. He went, oh, thanks very much. He went, oh, I've got a bit of a weird question for you. I went, oh, I probably shouldn't ask it. I went, it's fine, ask me. He went, are you sure? I went, yeah. He went, oh, right. He said, look, it's really weird. He said, I just wondered, would you like to come to the Royal Hospital for Neurodisability and have your EEG done? And I went, yeah, I'd love to. Here's my email address. And he smiled. He went, bloody hell. He went, oh, the moment I saw you get on the train, I thought, I've got to go up, but I've been really nervous. And that must be the weirdest question you've been asked all week. I went, not even in the top 5. I said, it's not... It was Saturday, see, and it was... And he said, what, there's been a weirder one than that? I said, much better weird. I said, on Monday, I was in Sutton Coldfield on the local line train to Birmingham New Street, and a woman just came up to me and went, hello, I'm from Birmingham University Psychology Department. Could we do some tests on you? He said, what did you say? I said, yes, and I went there on Wednesday, right? And... I love all of these tests. This was the one that happened to me in Birmingham, right? Hayley Drew is doing this interesting work in something you'll probably know about, which is the rubber hand illusion, right? The rubber hand illusion is fantastic for teaching you about how your brain and your mind put together an image of the world, right? So I'll run you through it. Basically, the rubber hand illusion, what you do is, so I went to her office and I sit down and there's a desk which is about that high, and I place my left arm under the desk, so I can't see my left hand and I can't see my lower arm. And then on top of the desk is a rubber hand that looks very much like a human hand. And if you want, you can kind of connect your sleeve so it looks like an extension of your body. Now, all you need to do for the first bit of it is you just have to stare at the rubber hand. Now, 1/3 of people, including me, within approximately a minute, you go, that's a bit weird. I'm beginning to feel as if that is the hand that I can sense. And it really does, it's like you can't feel that hand out, or at least that's what your brain does. You kind of look at that and you think, I really get the sense that I can feel that hand. And you get paranoid at times. You go, it's a little bit weird, my hand feels a bit numb. It's like I can't move my fingers. Oh yes, because it's a rubber hand, not connected to me at all. Well done, rational mind, right? And it's so, you can do it's so, I mean, basically what you do is your brain is doing a shortcut. It's going, well, that's a hand. It's probably yours, you know. Then they up the ante. Then it gets even better, right? So Hayley gets out 2 paintbrushes and she starts stroking my real connected but hidden hand and the rubber hand at the same time in the same direction. Now, at this point, about 80% of you, if you experience this, would find that within 2 minutes, you'd go, whoa, that is insane. It feels so much like you can feel the brush in that rubber hand. That hand is dead to you. That's got nothing to do with you anymore. Now, a disconnected rubber hand, you can feel the brush going back and forth, and you really, it's a beautiful moment of going, I need to question more and more why I perceive the world as I do. That, you know, perception is not, it's not a passive activity. It is an active thing, right? So you're just watching and then just brushing, and this goes on for about 5 minutes, and I go, I know all about this experiment, so I wondered if it would actually work, but it really does work. That is really weird, right? And I'm lost in it. 5 minutes just keeps brushing and brushing, and it is one of the most mesmeric experiences I've ever had. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, she gets a hammer and goes, ah, and you go, oh, fucking hell! Oh, and she goes, ha ha! You really believe that was your hand, didn't you? Yes, I did! Why did you do that? I'm a psychologist. So, it is brilliant, and you can do this. Everyone here, right, if you've not done it before, you don't need a rubber hand, right? If you haven't got a rubber hand, right, all you need is a glove and a friend. That is all that is required, right? A glove and a friend and a good opening line. Don't just go, I've got a glove. Would you like to do an experiment? Mary, come back, right? So it is just... It's fantastic if you do that tonight, right? Just a glove, a brush, anything like that, it will work. Now, if you haven't got a glove and or a friend, here's something else you can do, right? This one is actually my favourite of all the little mind-brain experiments I've done, right? All you need for this is basically, you just need a mirror. That's it, really. A mirror at head height, right? Which is probably the height you've gone for. That seems to be a very, very popular height for a mirror at the moment. The toe mirror still not catching on, despite all the articles in Elle. Anyway, so a head-height mirror, and you need a room where you can get quite a low light, right? A light where you can see your face, but you can't really see the background, right? The background is dark. All you need to do for this is just start staring directly into your own eyes. Just look directly into your own eyes. Don't look away at all. Properly concentrate. This will take about 90 seconds to 2 minutes, right? And then again, about 80% of you will find that after that period of time, you will get the sensation, the visual sensation, that your head is changing. Some of you will get the sense that your head is kind of pulsating and bubbling, right? Some of you will get the sense that you've suddenly become incredibly old, like wretchedly comic book old. Some of you, your head will seem to start to disappear. And what is going on is you are giving your brain so little feedback that eventually goes, nothing seems to be going on. We better start making some shit up. And it's fantastic, right? And I got really hooked into it. It's like, yeah, it's just like, I'll give it another go. Oh, it never quite totally disappears, right? And it's a beauty, and this is what I find, again, the way that once you start experimenting, and you can do all these experiments yourself, these little shortcuts, these making us realise, so again, the complexity of the brain, also the fact that if it can save time, it will, right? It will. It's like when I watch, for instance, the way my son's brain has changed. You know, I have a son, and his changing of his brain, you know, he's now 7.5, and it's fantastic to watch when they're very, like the moment when a child is born, that moment there, you see, like now, at the age, like when he was 6, I've been through lots of different stages. Still, one of my favourite stages was when he was 4 and he began to have that kind of, you know, a little bit of sense of humour, a little bit of playfulness. I mean, they have that earlier than that, but he gets, like there was one time, my favourite story was when he was in the bath and he just shouted to me and he went, "Dad, I just put my finger up my bottom and there's all poo up there." I said, "Of course there is. That's where the poo is, isn't it?" He went, "Oh yeah, I'd forgotten," right? I said, don't put your finger up there again. That is mainly an area of the body for things to come out from, right? Which even then, as a liberal parent, I thought, was that the right thing to say? Will that have Freudian ramifications? I don't know. Father said I should never put anything up there, so as an act of rebellion from the age of 15, anything I can find. Those your angry birds. Now at 7, he can do things like, there's a lovely thing, again, that bit where you know how well they manipulate you, the beauty of understanding, you know, their empathy has reached the point they know how to get in your mind. So I remember one time where he just went, Dad, I love you. I went, I love you as well. He went, I love Mummy as well. I went, Mummy loves you as well. That's good. We all love each other. Yeah. I said, you do really love us, don't you? He went, oh, yeah. I said, just because Mummy and me were talking about this the other day, and we've noticed that quite often, shortly after you've told us you love us, you then mention there's a new form of Minion Rush to download. We wondered if there was any link. And he went, oh, really? I don't think there's a link. And then I went, do you know what? Sometimes we think you just wrap us round your little finger. And he looked at me and he went, maybe. So it's seeing this, and it is, for me, there's a lovely phrase, Timothy Leary and Robert Anton Wilson used to use it a lot, reality tunnel. The way that, again, the world that we see, the perception that we have, the way we build together images. Like for him, this is the story I want to tell, when he was 6 years old, and he beginning to lose his first set of teeth. So I've been away for a few days, and I get home, and I walk in, it's like midnight, and my wife goes, oh, thank heavens you're home, right? Which is, she never normally says that. She normally goes, oh. It's like, I don't watch very much television, right? I'm not actually allowed to watch television with my wife, because apparently I spoil it. Shut up! I'm just saying the plot of this particular story of Lewis doesn't really make logical sense. Shut up! Go to your attic room! My life is basically a gender reversal of Jane Eyre. It's just this... What's that noise up there? That's the first, Mr. Ince Scamper. So, and it is... But so anyway, right, so I get home, and I say, what's the matter? And she went, Archie, he hates me. I said, I'm sure he doesn't hate you. She went, yeah, he does. I said, well, what's happened? She went, well, you know his teeth are wobbly? I went, yeah. She said, well, last night, one of his teeth must have fallen out when he was asleep. I didn't realise it'd fallen out, so I was just tidying the bed this morning. I thought I'd found, like, a mouldy old bit of popcorn, so I just threw it away. Then he came back from school, said, where's my tooth? I realised what had happened. I explained. He's now really cross, and, you know, he says he's not going to get any money from the Tooth Fairy. I said, it's OK, we can deal with this. She said, how? I said, all right, I will write a letter from the Tooth Fairy's undersecretary, right? So, the first one, very simple letter. I just wrote, Dear Archie Joseph Ince, it has come to our notice that a small tooth has been found in a drainage grate just outside your house. Could it perhaps be yours? We've heard your mother can sometimes be rather errant with your wobbliest teeth. If so, we'll be able to arrange some form of remuneration. Lots of love, Zaffo, the Tooth Fairy's undersecretary, right? He wakes up the next morning, he finds the letter, and I said, remuneration. He said, what does that mean? I said, money. He said, good. Right? He said, what do I have to do? I said, you now need to write a letter to the Tooth Fairy explaining that you believe that was your tooth in the drainage grate. He went, OK, so he writes a lovely letter. The next night, I'll write letter part 2. Dear Archie Joseph Ince, we have now double-checked, and we're almost certain the tooth in the drainage grate was yours. In fact, while you were asleep, we popped into your mouth, slid it in, slid it back out again. Almost perfect fit, right? Because I thought I'd spook him a little bit as well, right? Please tell your mother to be more careful with your errant teeth in the future. Lots of love, the Tooth Fairy, right? He wakes up the next morning, he finds the letter, he finds £2, and he goes, brilliant! But what a rigmarole. And it's that beautiful bit of that level of understanding of going, do you know what, I'm not entirely sure I do believe this myth, but I do like £2. Keep on believing. And that's what I find, you know, when I see that all the different ways, you know, like, again, when your child is born and you see the change in your brain, the change in your emotions, there is, you know, when Archie was born, I remember like the horror, the terror of like, when you're first handed your child and you kind of looked, in fact, I remember the first moment that he was handed to me, and because everyone said to me, oh, you'll just burst into tears because it's just incredible, it's just, and I didn't, right? I didn't. It was like 5 a.m. In fact, my first reaction was, oh, no. He's uglier than my sister's baby. Quite competitive family, right? And then I looked together and went, oh, no, he's not, because her first one came out a little bit on the pointy side. And so... And then there was, things like, it's like when you first hold a child and you suddenly realise a child, when it's born, it's not a blank slate, the brain, but it is blankish. There is a lot of filling in, and that's your responsibility. You have to make sure your child kind of grows up with as much empathy and altruism and curiosity and kindness, right? And that, I remember when he was born, within about 2 days, I started to think, oh no, what is the one thing that I'll do that will accidentally turn him into a mass murdering serial killer? It'll just be one mistake, but that one fuck up, 40 years' time, he'll have killed, cooked and eaten 53 people, and I'll go and see him in prison. I'll go, oh, Archie, why did you kill, cook and eat all of those people? And he'd go, don't you remember, Father? I go, no. So I'm surprised you don't remember. It was that day on the beach. Chesil Beach, I think it was. I was eating a mivvy. There was a sudden gust of wind. The mivvy fell and landed in the shingle. And you shouted at me, even though it wasn't my fault. From that point onwards, I knew I'd kill. So it's... But I love, it's like, this, and that's what, because it is such, the brain, what it can take in, it's like, this is, I mean, when I found the emotions change, because that is the beautiful thing, when you see their emotions change, their empathy, their altruism, you see the way you change, that kind of, like, one of the things, like, from, when children, like any women here have given birth will know about this. For instance, when you see some of the emotional changes in you during pregnancy. For instance, you might see sometimes in about the final trimester, there might be a moment where you suddenly find yourself turning to your partner and going, why haven't you done anything with the nursery yet? You haven't even put the cot up. You haven't even painted it. Jesus Christ, how long is this going to take? Do you know what, Keith? Sometimes I think you were the worst mistake I've ever made. Different levels of that, but you might have experienced that, right? That is a hormone called prolactin, right? When that kicks in, that gives you the nesting instinct, and that gives you the desire. You've got to turn that place into a nursery, right? And they've checked this out, by the way, by injecting prolactin directly into the brains of male rats, and it just makes them run around their cages and make loads of beds for no reason whatsoever, right? It's just going, make one over here, and one over here. Why are we doing this? I don't know. Make one over here, right? It's one of my favourite animal experiments, and I know you shouldn't have a list, right? But I do. It is. There's some of them. I'm a vegetarian. I'm allowed to have a couple. So it's this, and it really. Oh, like one of this is a great one, right? There was because again I'm fascinated by the different ways that different creatures' brains appear to work and perceive the world. And it's like a friend of mine, Andrea, who she used to look after the gorillas at London Zoo. As I said, wizard, mathematician, gorilla looker after her. These are the friends you need in your top 5, right? And we would often have discussions about what she'd seen in the gorillas and that level of behaviour that gorillas have. And one of my favourite discussions, she's actually gone out to Africa now to look after some monkeys. But so I just realised what I said. And look, shut up. So fucking hell, 2 hours in and only now the inner monologue leaks out. So this is, why are you giving up stand-up, Robin? I forgot who I was. Have you seen any films with John Lithgow made by Brian De Palma? Yes, Raising Cain. That's a very specific reference, isn't it? Some of the references are very specific. That's why I had to stop. Does no one know Brian De Palma's least known film? Did no one get the list? Looks like my routine about Battleship Potemkin's gone to... Anyway, right, so Anyway, this was... right, so we were talking about the gorilla behaviour. And there was... they got a new male gorilla. It was from Payton Zoo. And we were sitting in the pub, and she was talking about it. She went, we're having a lot of trouble with this male gorilla. I said, really? She said, yeah, even by the standards of other male gorillas we've had, he seems very, very hard to predict. And in terms of his aggression, it's kind of problematic. I said, that does sound like a big problem. She went, yeah, it is a big problem. She said, it's not the biggest problem, though. I said, really? I said, what's the biggest problem? She said, the biggest problem is every time we go to clean out his bed, we find new nuts and bolts. And we have no idea where they're coming from. So, it's basically... It's just great, man. But this is the experiment that I find intriguing. This was quite recent. In fact, I met someone who was actually from this lab, right? Now, bees, right? I love bees. I'm a big fan of bees. Bees are basically the new dolphins. That's what's happened, right? You probably remember dolphins had the 90s, bees have the 21st century, right? The kind of thing that The Guardian goes, I think we can put something about bees in this week. We'll have, I do love The Guardian. Look, here's poverty, and here's a watch you can buy. Now ask Molly Ringwald. Anyway, so fucking hell. So, this is right. So this is like, well, obviously, I like bees because I said I'm vegetarian, right? And I was thinking recently, like I used to be one of those vegetarians. I'm so Morrissey-esque in the terms that I couldn't even kill a fly. You know that thing where you go? Anyone here ever had that moment where you've killed a fly and then you've been racked with remorse? You're going, I killed a fly. Why did I do that? The fly's dead. the fly is dead and I killed its death for no reason. And so this is, and then I found a change in me again, like when I was 45 last year, right? I'd never killed flies. Now, I did kill a fly, I'd be racked with remorse and I'd write a haiku, right? But on this was late at night, right? I have insomnia quite a lot of the time. Well, again, insomnia is a fascinating part of the human brain. That self-loathing thing. If any of you have an insomnia, you will know about this, right? The thing where you have days and days of barely sleeping at all, right? Days and days. And then finally you go, tonight I must sleep. There's no way I can't sleep. I've been walking. I'm dead. I must sleep. And you get into your bed and you put like kind of your earplugs in and you close your eyes. You go, there's no way that I can't sleep now. And then just as you close your eyes, your own brain just goes, ha ha! Thought you were going to sleep? I don't think so. Because I'm going to sing Serge Gainsbourg songs in your head in a sarcastic manner until the dawn chorus. Ha ha ha! Je t'aime moi non plus. Then the other downside is the moment people find out you've got insomnia, they go, oh, really? You've got insomnia? Have you tried? Yes, I have! Whatever you're going to say of the list of 3, I've tried it. I was going to say, have you tried chamomile tea? Well, I haven't even heard of chamomile tea. What sleep clinic do you work at? Have you thought of getting a better pillow? A pillow! A pillow! Of course, a pillow! Now I realise why I'm not sleeping. It's trying to lie in broken glass and manure. That's a warning. So anyway, it was one of those nights when a really annoyingly stupid fly came into my room, right? You know, one of those autumn flies that even by the standards of a fly is an idiot, right? Banging against my skylight, right, in the attic room, banging away. And eventually I can't take this, and I get a copy of the Fortean Times, and I roll it up, and I go, sorry, and I smash the fly. And the fly drops and dies. And then I stood there for a moment going, any moment now, racked with remorse. And I waited a bit longer. No, he never came. All that came was eventually my own mind going, he's just a fly. It doesn't matter, it's only a fly. He was never going to write a great work of poetry or make one wonderful discovery. It's just a fly. When that Fortean Times reached its wingtips, that fly wasn't going, oh no, I can't believe it. And on my last day before retirement as well. Oh, today was going to be my last day of vomiting on ham. Boo-hoo-hoo, right? But I could not kill a bee, right? And the simple reason is because bees have evolved a complex language of dance. And I think anything that has evolved a complex language of dance... In fact, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to go to the next series of Strictly Come Dancing with a crossbow. And I'm afraid your tango wasn't good enough, EastEnders star. Anyway, so you probably know about it, so if you don't know, it's the waggle dance. It's a beautiful piece of evolution, right? The waggle dance is basically, we call it a dance, our interpretation, right? One bee leaves the hive and it finds where the best pollen is, and then it returns to the hive and it does this dance, and in that dance basically explains where the best pollen is to the other bees. And I also hope that eventually it gets to the point of evolution where, as well as that, they can also include some scurrilous gossip, right? Like the idea of a bee coming, in a minute I'll tell you where the best pollen is, but first, let me tell you what happened to me and a crane fly. Get on with it! In a minute. Right, anyway, so, I've done that, Ian. But this is my favourite, right? This is such a beautiful experiment, right? They gave a bee a small amount of cocaine, right? Obviously a small amount. It's a bee! Don't overdo it, right? So they gave a bee a small amount of cocaine, and when it returned to the hive and did the waggle dance, it exaggerated how much pollen it had found, right? And I just... So even a bee is turned into a vile narcissist by going, oh, you won't believe it was amazing! There was pollen everywhere, huge cherry blossoms. We went there was just an old mushroom. Shut up! There was loads. Anyway, I'm going to Soho to work in advertising and ruin art. Bye! Right? There's actually the other one, very quickly, the other one that I love is there was a great film recently about, it was actually almost a year ago, actually, a wonderful filmmaker called Chris Riley did a film about John C. Lilly. And John C. Lilly was one of those very interesting neuroscientists of the 1950s, 1960s, who was kind of, quite experimental in what he did. And he wrote some very interesting books. I would recommend looking at some of his work. And this wonderful documentary was basically about a dolphin. John C. Lilly and Margaret Brown decided that they would try and teach a dolphin to speak English, right? And it didn't work out, by the way, just in case you think you might have missed the dolphin that speaks English story. And so anyway, right, so so they're trying to teach it, and the documentary is following all this kind of archive footage and then current interviews, right? And you see the, hello, right? It's not working out very well. And then about 40 minutes in, there's this wonderful moment where the voiceover just goes, "At this point, they decided to give the dolphin some LSD." And my wife went, "What on earth? They gave a dolphin LSD? Why did they give a dolphin LSD?" I said it was the 1960s. Neuroscientists gave everything LSD. It was one of those brief windows of funding opportunity, that kind of, we can get money for what? Oh, I think so, thank you very much. Some for the goat, some for the blackbird, and a little bit for me. Everything is purple! And it was, and and if you look John C. Lilly up, right, because the great thing is, if you look at the different photos of him on the internet, on the images, you will see very much the arc of his life. So you see a picture of him in the 50s, neat hair, bow tie. "Hello, I'm John C. Lilly. I'm fascinated by the nature of the brain, the corpus callosum, the parietal lobe, and I hope to investigate that more over the ensuing months." Then, cut to late 1960s. Now, not neat bow tie and lovely hair. Now, weird beard, strange shirt, Davy Crockett hat, right? So it's like, "I've taken LSD! The doors and the windows of reception are open! I hear rainbows!" Cut to a picture from in the late 90s, just this face that goes, "Looking back, I wasted 3 decades of my life." Anyway, so... But these are... Sorry, I'm talking about the pregnancy thing. That's gone on a long arc, hasn't it? Anyway, who's not had Stockholm Syndrome before? So, when I bring out the Kool-Aid, leave it. So the... Good bit of satire on Jim Jones. That's only 35 years out of date. Yeah, good, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so... This is the bit where I'm beginning to lose the kind of grip. And I know some of you thought it was earlier, but I was very much in control then of the narrative arc. So anyway, right, I'll try and do the last few stories because I know it's very hot and it's a Tuesday, and it's I'm just showing off my knowledge there. I know it's very hot and it's a Tuesday. Ask me another question. So but I had this, right, so this is the thing that I love about, right, so when my son was born, and that was a weird thing, right, because I didn't think I had changed emotionally, right, I was worried, I was scared, it's a very scary thing, but because I didn't cry when I actually held him for the first time, I didn't think anything had changed, and then when I left the hospital that night, because anyone here who's had a child will know, there is a moment where you suddenly go, "Oh, I'll never be in control of my emotions again." I hadn't realised, right, and it was that night I sat down and I suddenly realised I was crying and I couldn't work out why I was crying. And then I looked and it was something on the television, right, that I'd found very moving, right? It turned out I was crying because of an advert for butter, right? And it was a very moving advert for butter, right? There's goats on a hill and there's the cello music of Elgar, right? That was it. It got me. Oh, the most beautiful advert for butter I've ever seen. It's spreadable straight from the fridge. Not like old butter that would all break the toast. Oh, how lucky that Archie's been born into a world where he can spread his butter in many different temperatures. I weep for his joy. Right, so... And this is this beautiful... Because I love it. I mean, again, a lot of this is about empathy as well. And it's because there's a thing called... You probably all know about this, right? There's a thing called crying porn. There was a lovely that came just over there, almost immediately. This is... I might not tell you, then you'll have to ask her. Or put it into a search engine and find out that everything suddenly changes with some of your top choices on Google. No, so... Right. Crying porn, I find this fact... This is this thing, again, about empathy in human beings, where crying porn... You know when maybe you've been to an event and you felt you should have cried and you didn't cry, and you think, I want to cry, and so you have certain things that you might turn to. Crying porn are those films or songs or TV series that move you a great deal. So a great example of crying porn would be The Elephant Man. David Lynch's The Elephant Man, right? It's a very, very beautiful film, and I think it has many moments in it. I was watching it recently in a Leicester Holiday Inn at 1 a.m, just to drown out the 3 people next door who'd followed me from the Travelodge in Chesterfield. And But Elephant Man, there was an episode of Inside Number 9 by Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton. The second episode was Sheridan Smith, which I thought was absolutely beautiful, fantastic. And music sometimes, like Billy Bragg's Tank Park Salute. Any film made by Pixar, normally, that's crying. Like, there's a bit, if you've not seen the first 10 minutes of Up, that is crying porn, right? If you've ever sat and watched that first 10 minutes of Up with a friend of yours who hasn't been moved, haven't you kind of looked and gone, I'm not sure I trust you anymore? I was kind of like... I think if they ever remake Blade Runner, that should be the test they do on the replicants. It's kind of like, sit down here, Rick Deckard, we're going to put on Wall-E. Anyway, so it's... But it is, you know, so these, and it's it's this strange thing that our brain does not delineate between real experience and a film, and you know it's actors, but again, like the rubber hand, for some reason, you get carried away with it, right? Now, tonight, because it's the last show, I want to talk about my crying porn, right? And there are many of them, right? But this is number one crying porn, and this will mainly mean something to men who are approximately my age, because my crying porn is the mercenary action movie, The Wild Geese, right? Now, if you've not seen that film, I'll give you the background. It stars Richard Burton, Richard Harris, Hardy Kruger, and Roger Moore. Roger Moore plays the Irish character in it, but doesn't bother doing the accent. My name's Sean Flynn, bejesus, etc. And he's great, right? And you watch it and you go, why did they give that part to Richard Harris? He's Irish. Well, I want that part. And it's this, and they used to show it a lot when I was a kid, right? And when I was a kid, I just liked it as this kind of reasonably preposterous action movie. It is a well-made film, right? But the older I've got, there are two scenes in it which every single time get me, like the crying porn of... I'll tell you, this is how terrible it is, right? There is one scene that I'm going to tell you about tonight, which when I started talking about it at the Edinburgh Fringe, just talking about it, reenacting it in my head, a film that I've seen 43 times, I actually started welling up one afternoon, remembering this scene, right? Now, the first thing I'll tell you about is this, right? Richard Harris is, he's a kind mercenary. He's a mercenary that's chosen to do it for altruistic reasons. As you know, a lot of people go into military mercenary work just to help, you know, and Mark Thatcher, etc. And let's see if that makes the edit of the Go Faster Strike DVD, or whether the lawyers say, no. Anyway, so... This is there's Rich Harris, he's got this little boy, right? This little boy called Emil, and he's bringing him up on his own, and they love each other very much. We know how much they love each other, and there's a real level of kind of jeopardy as well, because Richard Harris wasn't even really meant to go on this mission, but he's Richard Burton's best mate. So the first moment of crime porn is right near the end. Spoiler alert, right? So, but it came out in 1978. But spoiler alert. Right at the end, the scurrilous banker has betrayed them all, right? It's a very prescient film, right? The scurrilous banker has betrayed them all, and the few surviving elderly mercenaries are running towards a plane. And the plane has to take off on the first go, or that's it. Roger Moore is in the cockpit. He's got to get the plane up in the air, right? They're running along. They're being chased by other people, right? In this African Republic. And Richard Harris, Richard Burton, they're best mates, right? Richard Burton's on the wing of the plane. He's going, come on, Rafer. That's Richard Harris going, come on, Rafer, get on the plane. Get on the plane. He's going, I'm nearly there, Alan. I'm nearly there. He goes, come on, Rafer, get on the plane. Get on the plane. He goes, I'm nearly there, Alan, come on. And their hands meet, and you think, yes, Richard Harris, he's got his kid at home. He's going to make it. He's going to make it. Their hands meet, and then suddenly there's a shot. He's shot in the knee. Their hands, they loosen, and suddenly he's away from the wing. And Richard Burton, the desperation in his eyes, come on, Rafer, you can make it. I know you can make it. He goes, I can't make it, Alan. I can't. He goes, come on, Rafer, I know you can make it. He goes, I can't make it, Alan. Shoot me, Alan. Shoot me. He goes, I can't shoot you, Rafer. I can't. He goes, shoot me, Alan. Shoot me. And he shoots him. And the blood just goes on the camera lens. There's a huge surge of orchestral music. And then Richard Burton just walks into the cockpit. He sits down and he goes, I had to shoot Rafer. And Roger Moore goes, I can't seem to get the plane up. And everything's fun again, right? But that's not the moment that got me when I was talking about this in Edinburgh, right? This is the scene that got me. There is a scene where, as I said, Richard Harris and Emil, they love each other so much. And they, at the beginning of the film, we know they were going to go on the best holiday ever. They were so excited about this brilliant holiday they were going to go on. Whooping and cheering. Then they bring the mission forward. Emil is not going to go on that holiday. In fact, he's going to have to spend his Christmas at school, right, being looked after by the head teacher. And Richard Harris, he turns up at school, he's got all these presents, and he walks in, and Emil runs up and he goes, Daddy, 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 what a lovely surprise. He goes, well, I love to surprise you, don't I? Let's go and sit here, Emil. And they sit down. And he goes, now, Emil, I've got all of these. He goes, oh, lovely presents. He goes, now, Emil, I've got a bit of bad news for you. And he goes, what's that, Daddy? And he goes, I'm afraid we're not going to go on the holiday. And Emil's face just drops, like this kind of moment of betrayal. This is, you know, a father to his child. he goes, but why, Daddy? And he goes, well, look, we're going to go on another holiday. We'll have a wonderful time. But we can't go on this holiday. He goes, look, open one of these presents. And he goes, I don't want to. And he goes, okay, Emil, I understand. He goes, anyway, Daddy, I've got to go and play games. He goes, of course you have, Emil. And he just looks into Emil's eyes and he goes, Emil, I love you, Emil. Emil doesn't say anything. He just stands up and he just starts running down the pitch, and he's running and he's running, and his eyes are filled with tears. And when he's out of earshot of his father, just with his eyes so heavy and so wet, he just goes, I love you too, Daddy. Fuck, every time, right? That nearly happened then, right? Every time. And it's just, and this is the thing, my brain doesn't delineate. It's a film I've seen 43 times. I know what's going to happen. And nevertheless, oh dear, Emil, I wonder if Richard Harris makes it this time. It's not going to happen, right? And that's the thing that gets, you see that moment when you realise that films can be as potent as real life. And then I got worried, because I thought actually films might be more potent than real life, because real life doesn't have an orchestra. And it's just like, he died. Yeah, no cellos, fuck it. You know, so it's just... But I'm sorry, I'm overrunning terribly. Right, so the three things, I'll tell you three stories and then I'll let you go, right? Which is... This was one as well, right? I'll tell you this. This was... I had a while back where... Because I said I don't watch television. This is one thing that I love, that when I started doing the show about the mind, there was something that I wanted to explain to people, because I am so fascinated by, as someone who, you know, kind of those moments of paranoia, the confusion of what it is to be a human being. And there was a while ago, one of the things that I love, right? I love books, right? I love books too much. My agent once said, you've made the leap from bibliophile to bibliosexual, right? And I just... And, you know, and I'm always coming home with books, and I just see my wife going, no, not more books, please, not more books. No. I try and time it, going, she should be out now. Oh, God, she's come back early. You know, sometimes I genuinely had to hide books under our shed. She'll never find them. And she once turned to me and she went, oh, why can't you just be a junkie? That takes up less space. And it was a joke, but it was meant. It was books, needles. Anyway, so this... And I love it. And then one of the things that I love about it is when you read a book and you just... One of the things that I enjoy, like when I was down at my favourite bookshop, there's a wonderful bookshop down in Falmouth called Beowulf Books, which is a bookshop and a pub. How can you survive that? I'll just buy these 3 books and have a pint of Doom Bar. Look at the other books. You could have them as well. Shut up, Id. You haven't got a good book on Caravaggio. One more pint of Doom Bar. There's a Philip K. Dick encyclopedia that looks nice. Fuck it, I'll have them all. So, and I found myself, like, I was sitting on the train to Truro once, where I was sitting reading this book. And it was by Colin Blakemore, who's a neuroscientist. And I was reading this book, and I thought, this is the beautiful thing about books, which is most animals, when they die, they leave behind skin and blood and bones and maybe eventually a fossil. But when we die, we might leave all those things, but we also leave behind some of our thoughts. Some of the things that actually made us the personalities that we are. They might just be postcards or letters or journals or poetry, whatever it might be. Some of what you are is left behind. There is this beautiful thing that, you know, a book to me is a fossil of the mind. When I look at the work of Carl Sagan and I think, oh, I wish I could have met Carl Sagan, got him on Infinite Monkey Cage, and I think I never got that chance. But then I pick up Demon Haunted World and I think, but he is still in here. There is some of what made Carl Sagan inside this book, right? And when I was sitting on this train reading Colin Blakemore's book and thinking how wonderful this is, that here lie the thoughts of Colin Blakemore, by the way, still alive. Here lie these beautiful thoughts. Some of the fossils of the mind of Colin Blakemore are here. This is a beautiful thing. And then I turned a page and I found out I had a double whammy, because this didn't only contain the thoughts of Colin Blakemore. It turned out in the margins there were also the angry scribbles of an academic that clearly disagreed with the cut of Blakemore's jib, right? So, and it's brilliant. Like first page 9, it just in the margin it just goes, this young man's beginning to annoy me. Few more pages, then it goes through the page, went, he doesn't even seem to understand gravity and buttered toast. Oops. Page 24, he's just done little corrections of how he thinks the sentences could be better. And then by page 54, he just goes, I'm going to stop reading now, exclamation mark. But he didn't. And it's just, I love that. It's so exciting, right? And it's just, And this is what I find, is because our thoughts are self-consciousness, in one way it gives us incredible kind of advantages and it gives us the chance to look at the beauty of the world and to be curious about it, but it also brings with it paranoia, self-loathing, uncertainty, lots of... Like, there is that thing where, I've talked about this before, right? The imp of the mind, right? And the imp of the mind is... Right, I'll give you an example. Imp of the mind are... Our thoughts don't come invited. Thoughts just bubbling away all the time, and sometimes you might have a thought where you go, oh! I didn't think I was the kind of person who'd think that. I wonder where that came from. Must have been my mind, oh dear. And I'll give you the classic example of the imp of the mind. The classic example of the imp of the mind is when you're holding a baby, right? It might be your baby, it might be somebody else's baby, and you are perhaps at the top of some stairs, or by an open window, or near a cliff, right? And you're standing there, and suddenly you go, ah! I just imagined throwing the baby over the cliff. I must be a madman. I must be a psychopath. I must want to kill babies. Jean, do you want to take Albie back? Yes, my arms are getting a bit tired. I didn't imagine just throwing him over that cliff. You want him back? No, that's fair enough, right? So, that moment, right, is, and I imagine, how many of you have ever experienced that? I knew this is my core demographic. We all have, right? I should be more specific, by the way. But the thought I was talking about is definitely I just imagined throwing the baby over the cliff, not I just imagined throwing the baby over the cliff. Very different thought, right? Now, this is a beautiful thing, is I found out in the times that I've been doing this tour, the number of... Sometimes only 2 people put their hand up. Sometimes 30 people put their hand up, right? And sometimes it's this wonderful moment where you can see the rest of the audience going, well, I am very superior, right? Until you find out what it means. What it means is, for those of you who've had that thought, it's not that you want to throw a baby over the cliff. It's actually your brain going, oh, she's holding a baby. I better send a little message to say, remember not to throw the baby over the cliff. Oh, I seem to have said that in a very cack-handed way that creates a sense that it's almost a desire. Never mind, psychotherapy can deal with that later, right? So this is... And then that lovely moment where I can turn to the rest of the audience and go, so those of you who haven't ever had those thoughts, I don't even know why you're alive. Yeah, because those people who don't have those thoughts are the kind of people who go, I wonder what would happen if... Well, that hasn't worked out well at all, has it? But that's the beautiful thing, right? Our brain all the time, just about, we've delivered it quite badly, we'll hopefully get better through mutation, heredity, natural selection, and various cultural things, right? So this is the beauty. And it's like, some of the thoughts, I started reading more and more about this, because like, another common thought you might have is, you know, if you've ever been on a very busy train platform, and you suddenly have that moment when a freight train goes through, where you go, I didn't think I felt suicidal, but at the same time, I don't trust my own legs not to play a trick on me. I step back, hold on to bench, wait, right? That's the kind of thing. Sometimes the psychopathic one where you just go, that man in front of me, I don't like him and I don't like his ringtone. Who's gonna know? You know, that one. But then I started reading this book about the imp of the mind, right? So I read this book and I thought it would help because it would give me a greater understanding and I could share it more with kind of other audiences and stuff like that. So I started reading this and I read it and at the end of it I was like, oh, brilliant, that's really helped everything. And then a day later I went, oh, no, it hasn't. Because all it's done is it fed my imp. So though I had a greater understanding of what it meant, I also now had lots more weird impulsive thoughts. So, like, the first page of the book just has this, goes, one of the most common imps of the mind is when seeing someone walking a dog in front of you and imagining yourself in a sexual situation with the dog. It wasn't. I'd never had that one before. Read the book, 2 days later, get off at Nottingham, someone's walking a dachshund. Oh, for fuck's sake, I'll have to go this way then. So it's just... But that is, you know, all of these, this beautiful... the complexity where you get with, like with the self-consciousness as well, the fact that you have to make sure your self-consciousness doesn't hold you back. We need that kind of, that level of understanding ourselves, but at the same time, not a fear of, you know, sometimes... Because I hang around with freaks and weirdos, I'm very, very lucky. And it just means that I can often share ridiculous ideas. Other people sometimes feel they're in a society where they think, I better just keep my mouth shut. Like, there was a thing that I really liked at the weekend, when you see the possible cultural hope, right? There are dreadful things going on, but there are also good things. I was at a wedding, and I was with my son, and he'd ended up playing... There was a friend of mine there, and she was with her wife. And he played some Star Wars games with her. And then afterwards he went, oh, by the way, who is she? And I went, oh, that's Susan's wife. And he just went, oh, right, so she's married to a woman. And just that bit of, you go back a couple of generations, just a kid, 7-year-old, yeah, I imagine that's what's going on. The fact that when you think of some of the fucking people, like you know, the bed and breakfast thing 2 years ago, where you have people going, I can't have homosexuals in my bed and breakfast. Imagine what they'll get up to. They'll be rubbing a potpourri all over their naked bodies. I don't know what they'll be using our tea and coffee making facilities for. You think, well, people generally in bed and breakfast, they don't have sex. It's not the right place, is it? It's the decoration, it's the doilies, it's the kind of... They're very rarely in a rousing environment. It's like, you know... And also, there's someone else's house. You know, not only are they someone else's house, more often than not, there's someone quite creepy's house as well. It's kind of, welcome to my house, come in. It's your house as well for the weekend. Do you like dead owls? And it's... I remember talking about that a while ago, and someone said, well, you're very unfair about some of those people, because some of those people, they are homophobic, and it's a condition. I went, is it a condition? Is it a condition? Is it kind of, oh, yes. Because I've never seen somebody say, oh, I've got homophobia. It's very worrying. The other day, I was at home listening to the Jeremy Vine show, and then suddenly they played Soft Cells, Say Hello, Wave Goodbye, and I leapt on a chair and started screaming. Arachnophobia is not going, I don't like spiders. It's not natural, is it, what spiders do? Making webs. No, I don't like spiders. I think you want to be a spider. Fuck off. So, I do. So anyway, right, this is the thing that I wanted to... Right, oh, God, there's still 3 stories. I told you that about half an hour ago, right? So, there's always 3 stories. Just a hyperkinetic version of a Beckett play. When will one of the stories appear? Maybe, maybe not. So let's hang ourselves. Anyway, so this is still my favourite thing that ever happened once was when I went to see the recent production of Waiting for Godot, which was fantastic. But I once tweeted about Waiting for Godot and the fact that Godot never appears, and someone wrote back to him, well, thank you very much. I was going to see that on Tuesday. I won't bother now. And... It's like another of my... When I was talking about those things asked, like when you ask the audience a question, still my favourite moment ever of the kind of the last 10 years I've been touring was there was one... I'd been round to visit a friend, and she'd recently had a baby, and we were looking at the baby, and we had a cup of tea, and then she came in and suddenly went, oh, by the way, I've made a pudding out of my breast milk. Would you like to try it? Right? And we didn't, right? Didn't want to try it, and in fact pretended we were lactose intolerant, which... highly unlikely when you poured that amount of milk in your tea 10 minutes ago. It's just come on, 24-hour lactose intolerance, right? And then I talked to this friend of mine that I went round to the house with, and I said, why is it we as human beings don't like the idea of eating something made from the breast milk of someone we know? You know, we'll have milk from a cow, and they're generally less hygienic, you know, but we won't have... And so that night I went out to the gig, and I thought I'll ask this to the audience. I said, who here would eat a pudding made out of the breast milk of a woman they knew? And only one man put his hand up, but he put his hand like this. Yes! Oh. I said, you're thinking of a particular woman, aren't you? He went, yes, I am. Yes, she was meant to meet me here this evening, but she didn't turn up. I'm a bit annoyed, right? 10 minutes later, she turned up, right? Door at the back opens, I go, that'll be her. He's right at the front, so she just have to walk through a whole audience that are sitting there going, we know a thing. And it's... So, 3 stories. I do, but this is what, right, this is one of them. One of the ones that I want to talk about was, because I mentioned before about television, right? I don't really watch television, and this is where I get, you know, when, again, middle age, I've reached that point where, if you've ever seen the film, The Invasion of Body Snatchers, the first version, right? I am like Kevin McCarthy at the end, just going, you're next, can't you see? Or I Am Legend, right? By the way, when I say I Am Legend, I'll make this clear, I mean the book I Am Legend, the brilliant book I Am Legend, not the shitty film with Will Smith, a film that doesn't even understand its own title. Will Smith, leave science fiction alone. You're spoiling it. Anyway, so the niche and so this was. So I get rid. This is the thing that gets me wound up. Is I think, oh, there's so much potential to do things, right? And this is why I don't watch television. I was going to say a friend of mine. It's not. It's someone who hangs around me and I can't get rid of, right? And this, and then you know when people just go, oh, you must see. Have you not seen? You must see. Oh, it's really amazing, right? And it's like when I've still not seen 12 Years a Slave, right? Just because I've been busy, I've been travelling a lot. I haven't seen a lot of films. And someone once said, you must see. I mean, you've seen 12 Years a Slave. I said, oh, I haven't yet. And he looked at me and went, why haven't you seen 12 Years a Slave? As if my act of not seeing 12 Years a Slave actually means I'm a little bit pro-slavery. So I'm not. I just haven't had time, right? And this is the same person who said to me this thing where they went, this is a bit right. Gogglebox. Right? I don't know how you feel about this show. I spent 3 years of people going, you must see Gogglebox. Have you not seen? You really, it's won the BAFTA. It's a really amazing piece. It's great, right? Well, what is it? Well, you won't believe what it is, right? It's people watching television. Yes, yeah, it is. But it's more than that, right? Because they're filming them and they say things. And some of them are posh, and some of them are drunk, and some of them are camp. And they say things like, here's fat. It's really amazing. It's like lifting the lid of humanity. It's really amazing, right? So after 3 years of putting this off, I finally watched it, right? I watched it for 10 minutes, and then I cleaned up the broken glass, right? So... I don't get it. I really don't, and I'm fucking trying with pop culture, but there's so many beautiful things, so many wonderful things out there, so many paintings and films, and I don't get it, right? This is like, when I was watching, there's an animal, right? There's an animal called the sea squirt, and I'm going to anthropomorphise here a bit, right? The sea squirt reaches a point in its existence where when it finds somewhere secure, it will attach itself to that rock, and it will eat its own brain. That, to me, is Gogglebox, right? That is the act of just kind of going, what a comfortable place, flick. Yum, yum, yum. I think George Osborne's a safe pair of hands. Yum, yum. So, this is... Too tired to be angry now. It's like when ages ago, right? I had to I love cinema. There's so many. I watched a Lauren Hardy double bill recently, and it was just so hard-boiled eggs and nuts. It's just so fucking beautiful, right? But about 3 years ago, I had to go and watch Fast and Furious 4, right? And you know when sometimes films aren't really your genre, and films I like are generally they're kind of Scandinavian films made in between 1957 and 1964, and they're normally about a priest very slowly losing his faith next to a monochromatic waterfall, right? It's like nothing happens but for ages, and it really, even though you think nothing's happened with it, it haunts you and it won't ever go away, and you're just kind of going, hang on a minute, and then about 5 months later you go, I've just realised why the hymnal fell on the pump organ. Of course, it represented his fear of Joseph of Arimathea. Well done, Ingmar, right? Fast and Furious 4 doesn't have the same level of subtext, right? So... I went to see that film, and I'd had to take a young relative to go and see the film, right? And he enjoyed. I was annoyed right from the start. I was annoyed because I sat down. It turned out there wasn't enough light being reflected off the screen for me to be able to read my book, right? So I'm a little bit annoyed. And the film's fine. It's what it is. You know, vroom, 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 vroom. I'm in a bra. I'm in a vest. Vroom, vroom. So, that's rough. I've saved you a lot of time. Spoiler alert. Film goes vroom. And so then when I left the film, right, it was fine for what it was meant to be. I understood what it was meant to be. But when I left, it wasn't just my kind of relative and me. It was the fact that it was the other people, predominantly men who were leaving. It was what they were saying. I didn't mind that it was just this thing that existed and I understood the market for it. But the way that people left, they just went, that was all right, wasn't it? I thought it was all right. What did you think it was? I thought it was all right. Was it all right? Yeah, it was all right. I think it was, do you think it was better than Tokyo Drift? Maybe, but it was all right, yeah. And this is what got me, right? This film, I looked up how much it cost, right? It cost over $100 million, right? Before marketing. Over $100 million, right? If you make something that costs over $100 million, that's got to be more than that was all right. It's 100. Think what it's like, you know, it's only going, yeah, that was all right, wasn't it? Should we go to Pizza Express? Yeah, that's a good place to go, isn't it? Because it's all right. It's not too good, it's not too bad. One goes in and then leaves fuller than one was before, but has no memory of the meal. For the best. I don't want to have to change my thoughts. And it's just... I've never had to go to Pizza Express and go, oh my God, what have they done to the olives? There's a party in my mouth and it won't end. So anyway, right, so everyone just said, it was all right. Right, think what you could do with $100 million, right? Think about $1 million. Think what you could do with the art you might want to make or a machine you might want to design, just any kind of project, or just build a playground, whatever it might be, something that was practical and beautiful. But they've given, and probably a lot of people involved in the film, they wanted to make something else, but the company went, iron out all the kinks and idiosyncrasies. It must be all right, no better, no worse. They'll keep coming back. They love the banality, but they don't like change. Vroom, 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 right? If I go and see a film if I see something that costs £100 million, right, I should be leaving that film going, I can't believe what I've just seen. I've just seen Fast and Furious 9, and nothing will ever be the same again. It's as if Vin Diesel has lifted the scales from my eyes. I was blind, but now I can see. I left the Odeon foyer as if I was coming out of the womb for the first time. The waters broke, I saw the sky, I saw a rainbow, and in that rainbow, 7 colours I've never even seen before. Colours that were new to me, for surely Vin Diesel is the new Newton. But what was it like? What was it like? I can't tell you what it was like. It was like sitting in an armchair with Aldous Huxley slowly feeding you peyote while you talked to a dolphin. It was like having all the films of Stanley Kubrick directly injected into your eyes mixed with some heroin. It was like sitting up an oak tree on Primrose Hill with three angels, William Blake and Billy Bragg, all singing Tank Park Salute and Jerusalem while they played lutes made out of their own hair. 3 stars. So it's just the... I just think, that all of these... That moment of, to me, the final, I will tell you only one more story, I promise, right? And it is just about, it's about the passion. I really think it's, things go up and down, self-loathing, love, all of these things. And there was, right, the last time, not the last time I was here, but I was here back in November, right? And this is one of those experiences when you realise that you have to be aware of your self-consciousness, and sometimes you have to take action, even if some of your mind is going, I wouldn't do that if I was you, right? I'd arrived early, I was doing a thing for this horror book called Dead Funny, right? And I'd arrived really early, so I thought I'd go and get a coffee first of all. So I went over to the Cafe Nero that's just outside Euston. Right, Sunday afternoon, absolutely packed, loads of people in there. And I thought, well, I'll just get but I went there, got a bit of cake and black coffee, and I went and sat in the corner seat. There's one corner seat right in the distance there, and that was fine. And I sat there and I read Crabs on the Rampage by Guy N. Smith, one of the best of the giant killer crabs attack the coast of Wales genre that I'm sure you're aware of. Anyway, right, so I sat there reading this book, and then there was this point where, well, basically there was some kerfuffle. And this, by the way, is one of the delights that happens with age, is kerfuffle very much becomes part of your vocabulary, right? Younger people, kerfuffle. It doesn't trip off the lips. You suddenly get to 42 and you go, kerfuffle. Yeah, there was some... In fact, sometimes I also straightened the seam of my cardigan. There was a little bit of kerfuffle. And, in fact, then it rose to the state of hoo-ha. It was one of those Sundays. So, yep, kerfuffle and hoo-ha. So what happened was this guy came in, I didn't notice him come in, and he started shouting at the woman working behind the bar. There was actually only one person there, this one woman, she's working there, one barista, and this guy comes in and he just starts shouting. I won't use the words he used, I'll use lower level swearing, but he just starts to go, "You cow! You stupid cow! You stupid, stupid cow!" Right, but it wasn't stupid or cow, right? Very similar first letters, right? So initially I think, well, it's a little bit kind of, kerfuffly, but it's London. It was London on a Sunday, right? So don't get involved. Then it got a little bit more difficult, right? Then he started shouting more aggressively and he went, "You're not even from this country! You're not even from this country! And you've got a job in Cafe Nero and I'm from this country and I haven't got a job here!" And at that point I thought, even if she hadn't got the job, I don't think he'd have been second choice, right? You know when... There's some people you look at and you go, you're not really made for the service industry, are you? Here's your latte, all over your face, and your fucking muffin, right? So he's quite kind of a great... And I look around, though, because I'm beginning to think someone's going... But I look around and I see there's loads of men there. Like, not this, proper men, right? Look, they're like real... Because I'm basically a default man. I'm a man, but I don't really put the effort in. I'm just a man, It's just like kind of, I've got a Y chromosome. It's the position, I'm what I would call a second look man, which is kind of like... Oh, yeah, it is a man. Yeah, that kind of man, right? These were men, right? They weren't wearing knitwear. Proper fucking men, right? But, that real... They go to the gym, and everything they say, everything about them is they are men. This whole kind of like, oh, look at that woman over there. She's got breasts. I like breasts. Whoa. Yeah, I like breasts because I'm a man, not a woman. Whoa. Look, a car! It's a silver one! Vroom, 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 vroom. Reminds me, must go see Fast and Furious 10. Vroom, 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 vroom. Whoa, vroom, something pretty, smash it. Those kind of men, right? So I'm looking around, I think, well, they'll get involved probably because I'm this, And then this guy, look up, and he's kind of reached round the bar and gone to kind of grab her and then changed his mind. And at that point, I thought, well, surely someone's going to do something. And eventually I thought, oh, it's going to have to be me. Right, and this is, again, look at, in terms of face and body for a fight, right? In terms of Hollywood central casting, this is never the look they go for bloke who gets involved in coffee bar. That's not my look, right? This is kind of... I know what... In terms of Hollywood casting, right, I have the face that means I could be tetchy neighbour in a poor quality comedy series, right? Kind of... Dennis the Menace, get away from my hedge. Something like that. A flashback in The Walking Dead. The scientist who meddles in things he shouldn't, and now we're all zombies, right? It's kind of like a face good enough for a flashback, but not for a long trek with Rick, right? So that's the kind of look that I've got. And so anyway, so I just think, right, well, I've got to get involved. And I walk up to this bloke, and he's still shouting, and I just stand opposite him. And initially, I think I have the element of surprise on my side, because again, this is not what he's expecting. There's a man, all these men, and now suddenly he's in a live-action version of Mr. Magoo. There's this, why is the coffee machine making all this noise? I wonder what's going on with it, right? That's the kind of thing. Then he gets himself back together, and he just goes, what are you going to do about it then, hey? I said, nothing. Nothing at all. I'm just going to sit here until you calm down, or stand up. I'm just going to stand opposite you till you calm down. That's all I'm going to do. He went, he said, do you know what? I could knock you from here right through to next week. I said, you know what? If you can, you should go work at CERN, because save a lot of money on machines and stuff. Punch them round, right? Which he didn't get, which was fortunate, because here I am, right? So then I hit that bit where, you know, when, like, again, the imagination of the human brain, when suddenly you get to the point of being in jeopardy, your imagination doesn't just come up with one way you're going to die, comes up with loads. In a split second, you have seen, like, you know, first bit he just pulls out a switchblade and he's just doing that in the stomach like that. Then he's got a broken bottle and he smashes that around my face. Then it turns out there's a chainsaw I haven't noticed he's got. So he cuts my head off and then he just twirls it around his own head while everyone there goes, oh, well done, mate, well done for killing the meddling old man. Way! And then I even see the front cover of the Daily Mail the next day. It just goes, stupid meddling old grey man gets involved in something he shouldn't have done. Cafe Nero say we're not even going to give his widow an extra stamp on his card. So I'm now, and I've also got to that point of going, what do I do if a fight starts? What are my moves? And all I get is a flashback to Karate Kid. And then with that, this isn't going so well, right? And eventually, I think my best move is if he punches me really hard in the glasses and they snap and it cuts his knuckles. So my best move is poor quality optical wear and remaining stationary, right? So I'm going through all these different ways of the way that I'm spurting and dying and all this. And I don't notice that this man, big man, just walks behind me, puts his arm on my shoulder and goes, well done, mate. I'll take over now. But the only reason he did that was clearly his girlfriend had said, have you seen the one that has got involved? Thank you very much for your time. I am going to let you go now, because I know this. When I get off there, I promised everyone, the technicians here, I went, it'll really finish on time. And I'll keep all the other stuff for when I return. The end of Robin Ince, where Robin Ince will return in Moonraker. Thank you very much for coming down. I've had a lot of fun touring over the last few years and talking about lots of different ideas, and I'm sure I'll come back with other things and do other things. Thank you very much for all of you who've come down tonight. And I think, you know, it makes me think, one of the reasons that I do all this, I was remembering this a while ago, is last year Rick Mayall died. And when he died, I thought, fucking hell, when you just see the passion and the commitment, and that's what I think, you know, about, I'm just going to kind of eulogise a little bit, which is say, you know, the passion and the commitment, when you go out on stage, you do anything, you just go, whatever happens, if they hate me, I'll still sweat a lot and really show off. And they'll go, not really my thing, but you've got to admit, he burnt some calories and he did jump around a bit and go, yeah, all the time. And I think that's where I've got it all from. And there's a lovely thing where, if you've not seen it, Rick Mayall receiving a doctorate at Exeter University. And he says a lovely thing at the end, and I'm going to just say that tonight. I'm just going to take his own words, where he looks at all these young students and he says, love is the answer, my friends, love is the answer. Thank you very much for your time. Good night.